First, therefore, the very condition of the intellectual nature, according to which it is the master of its own act, requires the care of providence to provide for itself. But the condition of others, who have no dominion over their own act, indicates that it is not imposed on them for the sake of care itself, but as if for another organized. For what is done only by another has the character of an instrument, but what acts by itself has the character of a principal agent. Now the instrument is not sought for its own sake, but that the principal agent may use it. Hence it is necessary that the diligence of every operation which is employed in regard to the instruments must be referred to the principal agent as to the end, but that in regard to the principal agent is employed either by him or by another, inasmuch as he is the principal agent, it is for his sake. Therefore the intellectual creatures are disposed by God as if provided for their own sake. Still, that which has the mastery of its own act is free in acting, for it is free that is its own cause. But that which is subject to a certain necessity by another in order to work is the subject of servitude. Every other creature, therefore, is naturally subject to slavery. Only the intellectual nature is free. But in every government, children are provided for their own sake, and servants to be for the use of the children. Thus, therefore, through divine providence, intellectual creatures are provided for their own sake, and other creatures for their own sake. Further, whenever things are ordered to some end, if among them they cannot reach the end by themselves, they must be ordered to those which achieve the end, which are ordered to the end for their own sake, who are wanted in the army only for their own sake. But all the others, assigned to other duties, for instance to guard the horses, to prepare the arms, are wanted for the sake of the soldiers in the army. Now it is clear from the foregoing that the ultimate end of the universe is God, whom only the intellectual nature achieves in itself, that is, by knowing and loving him, as is clear from what has been said. Therefore only intellectual nature is sought in the universe for its own sake, but all other things for its own sake. Again, in every whole, the principal parts are required for their own sake for the constitution of the whole. Others, however, for their preservation, or for some improvement of them. But among all the parts of the universe, the intellectual creatures are more noble, because they come closer to the divine likeness. Therefore, the intellectual natures are for their own sake procured by divine providence, but all other things are for their own sake. In addition, it is evident that all the parts are ordered to the perfection of the whole, for the whole is not for the sake of the parts, but the parts are for the sake of the whole. But the intellectual natures have a greater affinity to the whole than other natures. For each intellectual substance is in a way all things, inasmuch as it is comprehensive of the whole being by its understanding. But every other substance has a particular participation in the being. Appropriately, therefore, other things are provided by God for the sake of intellectual substances. Still, as each thing is done according to the course of nature, so it was born to be done. And so we see that things run in the course of nature, that the intellectual substance uses all others for its own sake, or for the perfection of the intellect, because it contemplates the truth in them, or to the execution of his power and the explanation of his knowledge, in the manner in which the artist explains the conception of his art in corporeal matter, or even for the maintenance of the body, which is the union of the intellectual soul, as is evident in men. It is evident, then, that all things are divinely provided by virtue of intellectual substances. Further, what a man seeks for his own sake, he always seeks that, for what is by itself always is. But what a person seeks for the sake of something else, It is not necessary that he always seeks that, but according to what belongs to him for the sake of which it is sought. Now, the existence of things flowed out of the divine will, as is clear from the foregoing. Therefore, those things which always exist in beings are for their own sake willed by God, but those things which are not always, not for their own sake, but for the sake of something else. But intellectual substances come most close to being always, because they are incorruptible. They are also unchangeable, except only according to choice. Therefore, intellectual substances are governed as if for their own sake, but others for their own sake. Now it is not contrary to what has been shown by the foregoing reasons that all the parts of the universe are ordered to the perfection of the whole. For in this way, all the parts are ordered to the perfection of the whole, inasmuch as one serves the other. Just as in the human body, it appears that the lung is in this part of the perfection of the body, which serves the heart, whence it is not contrary to the lungs to be for the sake of the heart, and for the sake of the whole animal. And likewise, it is not contrary to the existence of other natures for the sake of the intellectual, and for the sake of the perfection of the universe. For if those things which the perfection of the intellectual substance requires were wanting, the universe would not be complete. In the same way, it is not contrary to what has been said that they are individuals because of their own species. For by virtue of the fact that they are ordered to their species, they have a further order to the intellectual nature. For something corruptible is not directed to man for the sake of one individual man only, but for the sake of the whole human species. But nothing corruptible could serve the whole human species except according to its whole species. Therefore, the order in which corruptible things are ordered to man requires that individuals be ordered to species. But by this, that we say that intellectual substances are ordered for their own sake by divine providence, we do not understand that they are not further referred to God and to the perfection of the universe. Thus, therefore, they are said to be procured for their own sake, and others for their own sake, because the goods which are allotted by divine providence are not given to them for the benefit of another. But those things which are given to others yield to their use by divine ordination. Hence it is said that Deuteronomy 4:19, lest you see the sun and the moon and the other stars, and being deceived by error, you worship those things which the Lord your God created for the service of all the nations that are under heaven. And in the psalm it is said, Thou hast put all things under his feet, all the sheep and oxen, and also the cattle of the field. And Wisdom 12:18 it is said, But you, Master of virtue, judge with calmness, and dispose of us with great reverence. By these things, the error of those who maintain that it is a sin for a man to kill brute animals is excluded. For by divine providence they are arranged in a natural order for the use of man. Wherefore man uses them without injury, either by killing or in any other way. For this reason the Lord said to Noah, Genesis 9:3, I have given you all flesh as green vegetables. If indeed in the Holy Scriptures there be found any prohibition of any cruelty to brute animals, such as not to kill a fowl with its chicks, this is done either to remove man's mind from exercising cruelty towards men, lest anyone, practicing cruelty towards brutes, should proceed from this to men, or because an injury inflicted by animals results in the temporal loss of man, whether inflicted or by another, or because of some meaning, as the apostle explains that about not tying the mouth of an ox that is treading.